Hello, today we've got something that doesn't fly. It's this guy. It's called the Twister XB, otherwise known as the Eachine EC30B, which isn't as catchy as the Twister. And it came about because my contact at Banggood sent me a message saying, oh, I've just sent the car to you. I was like, oh, I don't remember discussing that, because we discuss things. And she said, oh, I'm sorry, I've sent you the wrong message. And I had a look at it. I said, oh, that looks really exciting. And one thing led to another. And here it is. It is a 1/14th scale brushless little buggy. It says it does about 65 kilometers per hour, and it's got loads of. And I'm no expert on cars, but I know that certain things sound like they're sort of an upgrade on regular bits. And so the sort of things that stand out to me in here is like oil-filled shocks, metal gears, that sort of thing that, better than plastic, doesn't wear out, and it's got a brushless motor. Runs on 2S. This is the version with 3 batteries, 1500 milliamp hours each. I think they're on Dean's connectors still, cars. They seem to be popular, and I didn't have anything, so I thought it'd be useful to get a good few batteries. But let's get it out of the box. We might need to go to close up for some of it, but let's do some here and see what we've got. One great thing about these ready-to-run buggies is literally they have everything in there. There's your receivers there, your radios there, the lot. Okay, we get, aside from some packaging material here, some instructions, some decals. That looks like the spoiler, and a little screwdriver to put that in. There's this guy. Wow! It is surprisingly heavy. And those, oh yeah, those shocks sort of, they don't spring back, they're sort of a little bit slower. This is very interesting. I did not expect it to be quite this heavy. And then we got the radio under here. Let's go to close up with this, and we'll have a better look. Okay, so I went out and got the other stuff out, and what we have in here is your sort of standard trigger radio with steering there. Couple of little things here for, we got high speed, low speed, ST rev. I don't know what that means. I'll look in the thing. Normally it's kind of brake and then reverse in that sense, and it's got trims and some warning about don't do anything until you're bound. This takes a couple of AA's, so that's easy enough to get going. Also found this bag, which I'm presuming is the other batteries. Yeah, 2 boxes with little 1500 Lion packs in each, so that's good. I presume one's in the model. We've got this USB charger, which is, good because everyone has a USB socket. Obviously, you can use a regular hobby charger. You've got a normal balance lead and a Dean's plug there. Just have to make sure you've got the Dean's plug. And some spares for the little things that hold the, I want to call it canopy, but that sounds too much like a quad thing. The body down, I guess. Then, as I showed you, you've got decals, you've got the instructions, you've got this screwdriver, and it looks like a little spoiler. So I thought we might have a look under the hood here. You've got this sticker that says this the body shell's covered in like a clear film. Take that off before you put the decals on, essentially. But yeah, it's got these, pretty normal to have these little things, but I've never seen them with these little tags before, which hopefully make getting things in and out a little bit easier. But yeah, I'm desperate to see what's under here, because it really is heavier than you might think. And the answer is not much, really. It's just heavy, because there's a lot of metal in there. You've also got the brushless motor there. I think that's something like 3800 kV. I may be lying. This is the ESC cum receiver, and you've got the servo lead plugged in from here. Here's the servo for the steering, and there's the battery there. You've got a press and hold to power on and off, so it's not just a case of connecting the battery. But that's cool. So I'm going to strip the film off there, get the decals on, and put the spoiler on, and then we'll see how it looks before I take it for a drive. Now, this says, depending where you read, it's something like more than 70 metres or more than 100 metres worth of range. I suppose that's the only thing. If you're ever thinking, oh, that'd be great to FPV, you might need to do something in here. Obviously, the ESC needs to be the ESC, but I wonder if there's ways of expanding what the receiver can do, and then how easy it is to FPV things like this. I mean, fairly easy just to pop a camera on, but let's just drive it around as it was intended first. But yeah, I'm going to put the decals on and see how it looks. Okay, there it is with the spoiler on and the decals. Of course, you don't have to put them on, just a bit of fun. And also in there was a sort of smaller spoiler if you wanted to be a little bit more subtle. I did not want to be subtle. I wanted to be loud and obnoxious. So that's what I've got. Also had a bit more look in the manual, and I've got to say it's pretty good. At the back of it, you've pretty much got the entire build. So if any of this breaks, spare parts are available, and you've got pretty much a full build guide of how to take the entire thing apart, put it back together again, more importantly, which I think is pretty damn cool. There's all your spare part bits there. This also told me a little bit more about the manual and what the bits do. But let's turn it on to do that. So turn radio on, hold the button in. I've plugged the battery in. So there we go, we're off and running. And what you've got here is, aside from trim, you've got a steering dual rate. So at the moment, we can steer quite a lot. We can go even further than that, but if we wind this back, we can go really subtle. I mean, you wouldn't want that unless you were going like really high speed, but you can, basically means you can slam your wheel over, and you know, you only go as far as you want to go. This is in low speed and it already wants to move, so yeah, this is going to be fun. Right, I'm going to charge these batteries up properly, and we'll take it out for a run, see what happens. Hello, we are back in the park, and for those wondering why I'm saying back in the park, the reason is this. I came out a few days ago, we had a go in the park, I went to the second location off-road to check it out, and I had an SD card error on the GoPro, and I thought, oh, damn it, that's a pain. I'll have to go back and get the footage off and then sort the SD card out and stuff like that. But not only did the GoPro have an SD card error which lost the footage I was trying to take, it wiped the card completely and wiped out all the stuff I took here. So I'm back here to reshoot it because I was unable to recover the files. I've recovered broken MP4 files which I can't do anything with, and they're, even using MP4 fixing, they're glitchy and you have to pay a huge amount of money to try and make them work. So it's not new, it's all dusty because I was going off-road with it, but we'll have another go here, and I'll show you what it's like going around here, which I think is a typical usage case. It's kind of in the park, nice short grass, doesn't hold us up speed much. So let's get going now. I've also bought a backup GoPro 7 just in case this goes wrong again. Let's hope not. Anyway, let's race this. It was a much nicer day previously. The sun was out, there was no clouds, it wasn't blowing an 18-mile-an-hour wind, but them's the brakes. Let's go. Okay, we'll start with speed low, quite high on the dual rate for steering. So this is slow, and slow's not bad. It seems to move all right. It's not ultra quick, but let's go straight into high speed, which is this one, and see what happens. And it's certainly, whoa, it's got some more movement. And you have to be slightly careful on here because it's vaguely easy to flip this thing out. Oh, some dog walkers. They're going to be interested in this. Well, the dogs are, not so much the dog walkers. Range-wise, oh, I've got interest from a dog. It's supposed to be about 100 metres, but you can see it like 30-40 metres. You can barely see it anymore, so... Oh, we got a dog interested. And at this point I had to stop for about 5 minutes because it seemed every dog walker in the park and the surrounding area had decided to converge upon my single position. it's a... Fair, it doesn't feel that much faster. About even. Much more fun to drive on the grass anyway. Well, it's great fun just to drive around and rip around a park like this, although more features equal better stuff, which is why I'm going to show you what it's like in the dirt a bit later. But whilst I was moaning about my camera and stuff, you remember it has that spare spoiler? I thought, just for a bit of fun, I'd stick on this. I've put this very basic all-in-one camera VTX that runs off a 1S battery on that spare spoiler. I thought I'd pop it on here just to drive around, see how it looks. Now I have to warn you that putting it at the back like that, the actual view you get for FPV is fairly hopeless, but you get a nice view of the car. So I thought, this is a place that's got no obstacles, this should be fine to drive, so let's get the goggles on and we'll have a quick drive around. And this looks like this. So we've got the goggles ready, let's drive and see what we get. Oh, and for this I've put it down to slow speed and given it more control, because you're not going to go fast. And we're off. Really bad view of where I'm going, but at least a nice view of the car. Now you guys are probably saying, well, why didn't you just put it straight on top of the body? And there's two reasons for that really. First off, I wanted to be able to easily take the FPV on and off, because it's mainly just, you know, about driving around and looking at it line of sight. So something easy I could put on and take off would be good. The other reason I didn't want to put it on the body is because the body is something that sort of shakes around quite a lot, so I wanted something it would actually attach more to the frame. And although the spoiler is a little piece of plastic, it still screws directly into the sort of chassis of the car, albeit like a plastic post. But you know, I'm seeing enough to know where I'm going, and I'm sort of putting some speed on, and my goodness, is it bumpy. It's a very, very curious view. I know a lot of people who start flying for the first time have trouble finding themselves because they can't figure out, you know, that they haven't seen themselves from the air before. For me, it's even weirder when I'm 3 inches above the floor and everything is grass. It's really, really hard to find myself. But I think it works pretty well. You saw how smooth it was on the concrete there. The grass is actually slightly taller than you'd imagine, because this car is only 1/14 scale, so even small blades of grass really do get in the way. But that was a lot of fun. But let's move on to the next location. Location 2, which you'll probably notice is in the woods, and if you're a regular watcher of my channel you might recognise this. I was flying through this last time on the little Beta FPV Pavo 25. Obviously one of the reasons I came here because it's off-road and we can try that on the trails. The other reason is here, this slope, which is pretty big, and I'm thinking we'll work as kind of a launch ramp, basically go up that way. But let's try it out, let's see what happens. Okay, speed is on high, and whoa, that's so much power, it's very hard for it to get a grip. Let's turn the steering joystick down just a tad. Although it's not huge bumps, way up for this little car. That is a lot to cope with. Let's see if we get lined up here better. Oh, of course last time I was here it went absolutely perfectly. And everything turned into awesomeness. Let's get some warm-ups on this bit. Whee! Whoa.
just so hard to get the speed down. Oh, stuck in the grass now. No, leave. Come on, little dude, you got this. Oh, it's really quite easy to flip this dude. Okay, I'm feeling good about this one. Whee! That's better. That. Now we're cooking. Now we're cooking. Whee! Oh yes, look at that. Lovely job.
It's only when I filmed and looked back at these slow-mo shots that I could really tell just how bad the surface is for this little car. The whole place is covered with sticks and stones, and because these wheels are actually quite small, they just can't get a grip of them, so the car either bounces around or just slides out. So this is why it has so much problem hitting that jump. But practice makes perfect, and eventually I started hitting the jump better, and I stuck another GoPro down with a better angle to get some more gratuitous slow-mo shots. In search of a slightly better off-road place, I found this. This is actually on the way to the woods, and it's sort of gravelly, grassy track, but there's a lot more traction and it's not covered in little twigs and stuff, so you get some decent speed there. Unfortunately, it kind of goes around a corner fairly quickly, so there's not an awful lot of space. But at least it gave me the opportunity to, you know, drive past, get some speed up. It's still very easy to slide this thing out. I did a lot of messing around with the dual rates to try and find, you know, the middle ground where I was having enough control but not too much, so I'd just, you know, end up flipping out and things like that. And then I decided to have another quick FPV go here. But it was interesting from the fact that because it turns the corner quite quickly, I wanted to see quite how well the receiver would work in terms of being able to get the picture. This is an even worse picture than on the grass, although we've got, you know, an idea of where the track is based on the fact, you know, we've obviously got trees either side. It was slightly uphill, so you get slightly less view of the ground. In fact, no view of the ground pretty much. I just have to work out what's on the sort of peripheral vision to where I am, which was kind of weird, but you know, it worked, and I was reasonably impressed because at this stage I'm around a corner. When you're on ground vehicle, it feels like you're absolutely miles away because you don't hear yourself pretty quickly. With your quad or a plane, you can always hear it in the sky even when it's like 100 metres away. This thing, because it just makes quite a small amount of noise, disappears from view and disappears from your sound really quickly, and you're like, ooh, where is it? I wonder. But yeah, it worked okay. I was reasonably impressed with what that little all-in-one VTX and camera can do. Even though it's not the best quality, it seems to work alright. And since I was only 5 minutes away from where I'd just gone in the woods, I decided to go back there and have a go. This turned out to be the worst place to try and FPV, at least at this sort of angle, because I'm driving along and I'm like, am I on the trail?
or am I just in the woods now? Because the camera is sort of quite low and pointing forward, you don't really get the idea of what's trail and what's just, all the crap on the floor. And it's really difficult. As far as trying to figure out where I am is as well, because I couldn't see the trail, it's just some trees everywhere. So that's quite difficult as well. Fortunately, I was only 50 metres away from myself, so I managed to eventually find myself. But it was at least an experience, and it does give me, some ideas about maybe doing some more FPV better on cars.
Well, that was a super fun experience. I did enjoy driving this. I have to say, I think it's a bit like quads. If I was to fly a quad just in a field with nothing around in circles, I'd be a bit bored. And it's kind of the same with this. Although driving around a park where it's just like grass is like great, you can send it up and down and stuff, you kind of need something to do. You need some features. Either, you'd set up a little course to try and go around, or you'd look for somewhere where you had like a jump or some off-road stuff so it all bounced about. That's much more exciting than just a regular sort of field. But I think it did okay. Now, as I said, I'm no expert on cars. I've looked at a few cars previously, and one thing I'd say about the previous ones is that they were brushed motors, they weren't as quick. Now, I don't think this quite lifts itself into the hobby category. I think it's still in the toy zone, but it's got a brushless motor, it's got oil-filled shocks. These are things that feel a lot better than the average sort of car you'd pick up for about $100, depending how many batteries you get. And I'd say get as many as you can, because then you're not held back. 10 to 15 minutes, I actually didn't run out of battery, I just swapped them occasionally. The idea with these is they will run down to about 3.2 volts per cell, and then this will stop going. It basically cuts itself off, which sounds very low, but it should be okay for Lion packs. And yeah, I didn't run out of the free batteries in everything I was doing, and I was going around full throttle a lot of the time. Some of that is because I had to stop because my GoPro broke and I had to go back and do it all again. But you get the gist. Obviously it's not quite as fast as your one of these proper racing, much more expensive ones will be, but it doesn't go at bad speed. It's certainly going faster than the ones I had before, and it's got a lot of power to put down, which you really do notice if the ground you're trying to go off is very loose, then it will just bounce around and the tyres will just spin. It held up a lot of abuse. I didn't even show all the crashes and flips I did because there were so many, and there was also the previous day that I did all that driving and all the jumping and crashing, which I lost footage on. If things are going to break, it's generally the sort of front suspension assembly here and these, I think they're called diff cups, or the thing that goes into them can bend, because if you come down bad on that single corner, that's a real point of impact. But despite me messing it up and crashing this a lot, nothing has broken. It's not to say you can't break it, you definitely can. It kind of depends where you land and how you land and how fast you were going and stuff. But the good news in the manual, there is all the bits you will need as spares, and there's the instructions about how to break it all apart and put it back together again, which is pretty nice. Obviously the thing I like about these as well is it's ready to run. You've got a radio, which is pretty good, not a problem with that. I don't know what the range of, maybe about 100 metres, but as I said, as soon as you get like 50-60 metres away, it's a dot, and you wouldn't want to go any further than that. The only thing I'd say try and upgrade if you can is the charger for this. The little USB thing will charge this in about 4 to 5 hours, which, yeah, and I know this is built for somebody who might not have any RC equipment at all, but if you can spend an extra like $10-20, you can buy yourself a little hobby charger, and then they will charge in 40 minutes instead of 5 hours, which is a lot better. So that's one thing I would definitely upgrade. But yeah, a vast amount of fun. I mean, my FPV thing was a little bit doohickey because up here. I would, I think maybe put a hole in the body here, or do something different and have a proper camera. But to do that, I'd have to really swap out the ESC and put a proper receiver in so I can get some proper range, which is a shame because I kind of like the steering wheel idea of those. But we'll see what the future holds as far as where this goes next. I'd quite like to do some ground-based FPV because I think it's quite good fun. People don't get so freaked out by car driving around as they do as a quad flying around and stuff like that. But there you go, this has been the Eachine EC30B, which I'm going to call the Twister because it says so on there. And it was a lot of fun, supplied by Banggood, and of course there's links down below for where you can check it out in more detail. Hope that review's been helpful, and I'll catch you next one. Bye for now.
Well, you've made it to the end of the video, so thanks once again for watching. If you like what you saw, then please consider subscribing, and if you really like what you saw, then be sure to check out the link to my blog for a variety of ways in which you can help support this channel.